Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 8:03. Rise and shine, rise and shine. Good morning to you. I'm WESH 2 First Warning Meteorologist Eric Burris. This is Coffee Talk, where we get together 7 days a week, chat about what's going on in the world of weather, and hopefully get your day started off on the right note. I got to tell you, it's a nice morning here across the metro. We do, of course, have showers and thunder showers that are in the forecast, and we actually also have some pretty good downpours already showing up on our live radar. But the good news is that when we kind of get you out the door, if you're inland, and as a matter of fact, most of us are looking good. It's the coastal spots that have the rainfall. Let's look live at our Tower Cam network. This is the Orlando International Airport. Looking pretty good. No problems weather-wise here. Let me take you over to the Kennedy Space Center. Our Megan Mackey, who usually sits right behind me, she's reporting live from this vantage point, and she's been holding an umbrella a good part of the morning. It's been pouring down on her. That's a look out toward the Kennedy Space Center's Launch Complex 39A, and then on the left, 39B. It's been raining, and what is so interesting is that these downpours popped up right after liftoff. We were able to thread that needle, and it was perfect. But yeah, the weather could have also been rougher. So there's that. All right, downtown Orlando, let's see what's doing here. The clouds are in the distance, but it has been lovely. Look at that. We're over to Camping World Stadium. Let's take you over. I skipped this one, but this really, I think, shows that low cloud deck. This is Port Canaveral. Doesn't that show it, right? Yeah. So you've got the low clouds inland, whereas we head out to like Tavares, and it is gorgeous. Location, 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 I suppose, right? All right, let's talk about things. First warning, live Doppler radar tapping in to see what's doing. And we're quiet over the metro. But let me take you up here to Flagler County, see what's doing as we zoom in live. And you can see our radar shot there showing some pockets of heavy rain. Nothing strong, nothing severe. As a matter of fact, not even tracking any lightning strikes. But into Volusia County, watching these showers kind of popping up out of nowhere. Look at that. Yeah, about to cross over Mound Grove, Tomoka Estates, again, no thunder or lightning, but rains around for sure. Here into Brevard County, plenty of rain around Cocoa Beach, Patrick Space Force Base, and some new development in just the last few seconds' time near Rockledge. Look at that. You see that there? Sneaking over US 1, yeah, maybe on the south side of Fisk, and then back over to I-95, and then further to the south. Had some rains earlier around Micco. That has all been able to kind of burn on off. All right, temperatures out the door. We're in the mid and upper 70s. Lovely morning. Our 12-hour forecast looking good. Mid 80s by lunchtime, upper 80s our high temperature, and we're going with a 70% coverage of showers and thunder showers. So again, we are stuck in this very active weather pattern. This very active weather pattern will help to yield those storms. High temperatures today look like this: upper 80s for us. Polk County, even southern Osceola County, can't rule out the lower 90s, but the clouds, the showers, and storms will get us going. So let's dial in and let's look at our futurecast model. All right, and we get a new run of this every hour. It's fading the morning rains pretty nicely, 10, 11, 12 o'clock. We start to recycle, and by lunchtime, we're starting to get those East Coast showers popping on up, right? 1, 2 o'clock, showers, even thunder showers around, right? 3, 4 o'clock, some rains around, widespread showers and storms. 5, 6 o'clock, the rain's kind of gradually fading. And then 7, 8 o'clock, still with those coastal showers to deal with. And that's something new on this run of Futurecast that just came in. 8, 9 o'clock, can't rule out kind of another opportunity for those coastal rains. So it's going to be active. As simple as that. This kind of pattern is giving us that increased moisture plume, that increased opportunity to see the rainfall, right? And we widen the shot out, and you can see what's happening. On the bottom left, tropical storm Francine, but still, we've got that moisture plume all the way over, including the Florida Peninsula. That's why our rain coverage has been high. That's why our rain coverage will continue to be high. Rain chances over the next couple of days. I mean, normal is like 40, 50%. We're at 60 to 70% the next couple of days. And I would just further add that while we're staying pretty stormy the next couple of days, Look ahead, it's Tuesday. I get it. But everybody's at least looking to the weekend. And for now, it looks like the weekend rain chances will drop back off just a little bit. So that's kind of where we're at for now. Nothing too crazy out there, right? All right, so let me dial up our 7 day forecast and then we can chat all about the tropics because I'm sure that plenty of you are here to ask about it, to learn, to see what's doing, right? So high coverage of rain next couple of days, but into this weekend, we'll be able to drop things off, even if temporarily. We'll be able to get just a momentary change. Sound good? Anything? Local questions, comments, concerns before we move on? We want to make sure we get you all taken care of. While you're doing that, I'm going to just quick set up my next TV hit. So it's 8:09. So, all right. Start there. We're there. Do that. Okay. All right. Questions, comments, concerns? We good? We good? Yeah? All right. All right. So let's talk about the tropics. Don and Lionel, good morning. I see hello from New Orleans. Good morning. All right. So let's talk about the tropics. Shall we? Today, by the way, the statistical peak of hurricane season. September 10th is the peak. That's today. No surprise, we have a named system, and not just a named system, but a named system that is bearing down on people. So there's that. It's Tropical Storm Francine, getting better organized here as of late. Here's a look at the kind of wide perspective, but let's zoom in on the center of circulation. And there's no eye or anything like that. But if you notice, that convection starting to really fire up some cold um, cloud tops. And because of that, very clearly, Francine is trying to organize and undergo further tropical cyclogenesis, right? Here's the forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center. And expected to, oh, that's the models. Hold on a second. Burris, you fool. Well, you can see where the models are. I was going to get there eventually. But there you go with the models, kind of showing a Louisiana threat, certainly pointing to central Louisiana as the main threat. Here now is the forecast from the National Hurricane Center, expected to slowly develop and by 2 o'clock this afternoon get to hurricane status, Category 1, winds of 80 miles an hour. By early tomorrow morning, continuing to strengthen and right up to landfall, develop, intensify, strengthen. Hurricane Center, interestingly enough, going with that Category 2 intensity, but the intensity computer models yesterday were going kind of bonkers on rapid intensification, and I'm just off camera here. I'm going to just check because I believe they have really backed off on that. Yeah, actually, within the next 24 hours, the ship's model is still showing a 47% chance of rapid intensification, but that's still only taking it to Category 1 intensity. And the ship's model is here. This is the intensity model plots. And you can see they've backed off. They're not really going with Category 2 intensity anymore. So that's kind of where we're at, okay? Francine will make landfall. Francine will be an impactful system. Hurricane Center did just expand the envelope of hurricane warnings. They shifted it a little further to the right. They upgraded tropical storm watches to tropical storm warnings. And so, very clearly, New Orleans under tropical storm warnings, Baton Rouge under a hurricane warning, Lake Charles under a hurricane warning. If we have friends or family in Louisiana, we definitely want them to be weather aware of this. Okay. So let's do this. Let's look at some of our computer models and see what they're showing for Francine. All right, so we'll start with a 6Z run. This is our futurecast model. And right off the bat, I think that it's probably a little overdoing Francine's initial intensity. So, take that with a grain of salt. But it's absolutely expanding the wind field and strengthening the system fairly rapidly. This is a look at. I'm just gonna reset. You know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give me a few seconds. I'm gonna turn off that. Do this. Bear with me. Okay. We're just going to go in a little bit and interrogate the data. All right, so here's landfall. So that's 11 a.m. tomorrow. The labels, let me turn on more labels. Do that. That. There we go. All right, at least we've got more places. Okay. So there you go. And I'll make more. Okay, perfect. Okay. So this gives, I'm just wanting to turn on like all of the labels that I can, right? So that's 11 a.m. You can see New Orleans. There's Morgan City making landfall somewhere very near Morgan City. And according to our Futurecast model, I mean, it's wanting this to be a pretty significant hurricane. So Futurecast at least is going with rapid intensification. That's 2:30 tomorrow, putting hurricane force winds awful close to New Orleans, kind of on the west side there, and then of course passing and gradually weakening from there. So that's the Futurecast model. The GFS model here, and we're starting with Francine. We'll look at, we'll take a deeper dive later, but you can see Futurecast, same thing as the GFS, though the GFS is bringing those winds up, okay, 80, 90 miles an hour. European 60, get that loaded. European has been weaker, but even the European is bringing it to strengthen and then weakening it right at landfall. But they're all basically taking it in kind of that same area, central Louisiana. Let me just get this next TV hit set up. So the global models are seemingly fairly in agreement with that. And we looked at the tropical plots, right? And the tropical plots are also fairly in agreement, right? The idea of central Louisiana is seemingly all right. I don't want to say that like the models are locked into anything, but that's seemingly what the models are showing. All right, we'll do this. Bear with me a few seconds. Just need to get TV set up. And we'll do Port Canaveral. All right, TV's coming up. So with that, we'll pause our discussion for a few moments here because got to go get TV stuff going. All right. Laura says all very consistent. Yeah, there's been some consistency. All right, we're gonna go to the anchor desk together. Yep, I know. Just moving the keyboard. Let's take a walk.
Right, this week, workers will lay down asphalt to widen the road, and then they'll start clearing out any shrubs or bushes in that area. After that, heavy machinery will then drill holes into the sand. Some neighbors, though, are skeptical about all these projects.
Hi, everybody.
All right, crews should finish this project next year. A lot of that area got destroyed during Hurricane Ian, so it's top of mind right now as so many areas are dealing with all this rain, and we're tracking tropical systems. We're going to talk to Eric in just a second. All right, some areas in Daytona Beach are drying out from flooding that crept into some people's homes.
These carpets were on the floor. Water was coming through my bedroom this morning. She was coming out of here so fast. This hallway. 9 a.m. time to get something. Soaked everything. The water was too deep.
Homeowners across the county say that they've been doing everything they can to try to stay dry and to keep their property safe as we keep getting drenched with these longer lasting daily storms. All right, we're also keeping an eye on a tropical storm that's swirling around in the Gulf. Francine is making its way towards Louisiana. We want to bring in first warning meteorologist Eric Burtz right now. You promised an update. I know you guys got one at the top of the hour.
Yep.
So what's going on?
Yeah, so the Hurricane Center upgraded all tropical storm watches to warnings and expanded hurricane warnings. So now basically they're laying out the areas that are expecting hurricane conditions and tropical storm conditions. And the reality is New Orleans is kind of like right on that edge. So I think Baton Rouge very likely will get hurricane conditions over the next couple of days' time. New Orleans, it'll be close.
Anything Houston area or
Houston under tropical storm watches
okay.
right at the shoreline. So it shouldn't be a major concern. The system is wanting to stay off the shoreline of Texas. But there's the last 12 hours or so radar imagery for tropical storm Francine. And with that 8 a.m. intermediate advisory, maximum sustained winds are still kind of in that same register of 65 miles an hour. It's going to take some time for Francine to organize, but it's definitely doing that. Look at that circulation on radar. Give it some time, and we're going to get this building today. All right, here's our futurecast model showing that organization as Francine lifts to the north. This is about when weather's going to get downhill quickly. 9, 10, 11 o'clock tomorrow morning across central Louisiana. And then by about 2, 3 o'clock, it makes its landfall and closest pass to places like New Orleans and Baton Rouge. But at the very least, this is going to be a very big rain event with some spots here getting upwards of a foot to a foot and a half of rain right along the shoreline and through central Louisiana, about a half a foot to 3/4. It's a lot of water in a very short period of time. Back here at home, we're watching a lot of water in a very different way, kind of the peripheral moisture from all this tropical activity. Here's a live look over at Port Canaveral. There's a downpour, kind of seeing the sun shine through the mess. First warning live Doppler radar showing some of this activity. Kennedy Space Center starting to dry out. It was pouring there earlier, but here's some rain. Port Canaveral down through about Patrick Space Force Base and even here into Flagler. But the overall coverage seemingly is waning because the sun is getting higher in the sky. But again, there's Francine. There's this tail of moisture that is sitting over us. So again today, higher coverage of rain. About 70% of us getting stormed on 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 p.m. the main time frame for it. Brand new Futurecast data just got it a couple of minutes ago, showing a few lingering showers 10 a.m. Then 11, 12 o'clock, we start to see that East Coast sea breeze get feistier, working inland by 2, 3 p.m. and then 4, 5 o'clock stormy across a whole great many of our locations before fading 7, 8, 9 o'clock. But we do have changes. All the dry air is trapped up to the north, but as Francine lifts, kind of starts to shift some things around, and notice it's going to drag in some of that drier air to the Florida Peninsula looking ahead to this weekend. It's not a massive change, but look at how we go from a 60, 70% coverage of storms the next couple of days. We drop to a 50% coverage. It's not much, Sheldon, but hey, I'll take that emotional dub.
Hanging off your horses one, so.
All right. I woke up super early this morning for the rocket launch. We had a cut-in scheduled for 3:30, so I got up at 2 instead of 2:30, which I know sounds silly that it's just a half an hour difference, but that half hour, man, my brain is not operating. All right, let's see. Where did I leave off in the comments? Someone get a picture of us on TV. Oh God, so funny. All right, so questions about anything I just said on TV, and then we can jump back into analysis and all that fun stuff. Kelly says, "Watch your time clock." I think I went 4 seconds over. I tell every producer I go 10 seconds over. So I tell all my producers to set their clocks 10 seconds under, and I'll be fine. SST's hot. But notice that doesn't matter, right? Like you've got to have more than just hot sea surface temperatures. You know what I mean? So there it is. John, good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, Sell It launched. It was a beautiful. Let me just set I've got a Today Show hit coming up here in a couple of minutes. It was a beautiful rocket launch this morning. It really, really was. When will we get a rain break? Yeah, so that's a really good question. So let me come over here. We'll pop up the 7-day forecast again. This pattern has been very stagnant. And to that point, we have kept the rain chances high. So you'll notice through Friday, 60, 70% coverage of rain. But by the weekend, it's not a drop in humidity like the models had initially teased, but it's something. So we'll get down to a 50% coverage of showers and storms. But this stagnant pattern, here's what's interesting. This stagnant pattern is actually to blame for why this system is going to be a day late. This is a part of our hurricane forecast we put out on March the 1st, showing the Gulf Coast low part of the pattern. And from about central Louisiana over to the Big Bend, that's kind of where we had observed it moving through the off season. June 3rd through 8th, July 19th through the 25th, there were lows moving through these areas, but nothing organized tropically. And of course, we know this version of the pattern. There's Francine. I would also add that, yeah, the pattern has been stagnant, so it's a day late. Okay, I put that out on March the 1st. So there's that. So anyway, this is a part of our long range pattern that we put out months and months and months ago, 6 months ago. So it fits. Yeah. So just for perspective purposes, just so that you know, I feel the need to mention it just because as we're going through, we need to learn, see what we can do better, et cetera, et cetera. Right? I'm curious what is preventing Francine from riding that frontal boundary hanging over us. I mean, to a certain extent, the stronger Francine gets, the more it will make its own weather, essentially. And the Coriolis force of it will want to recurve. So there's that. All right. We can chat about our local forecast. And then after my 831-ish hit, then we could look at the broad tropical models and look long range, because I know that a lot of y'all love doing that, including myself. So yeah, Tom's asking, how about long range tropics? We'll get there. We just have, let me just dial up the 7-day forecast here. We'll get there. We just have to, I've got a couple of TV hits that I have to go over. So bear with me on that. All right. But questions about our 7-day forecast, et cetera, et cetera. Laura's asking or stating Francine is a strong, independent woman who makes her own way. That's the way my mother always was. Her name was Francine. Strong, independent woman. Carol, thunder and lightning today. Oh, yeah. Another high 70% coverage of storms. Yep. Yep. Never a dull moment. Also, today is what, the 7-year anniversary of Irma making landfall? Y'all, 7 years ago, I was in this weather center getting no sleep. I had just found out that we were pregnant with Eric. So I'm sitting literally in the seat I'm in right now. Manalfi's sitting 2 seats away because he and I, we kind of, it's not assigned seating, but we have our spots, right? So I'm sitting here, Tony's sitting there, and hours before, we wanted to start our family. We had been in that process, but you can't say anything at the very beginning. So I just remember I'm sitting here, and Manalfi's like, "You okay, bada bing?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And dude could read me like a book. He knew something was up, but he didn't push. That's a good bada bing. That's a good bada bing. September 11th, plus or minus. Yeah, can you believe that, Oliver? I think it was today was when it made landfall in South Florida. Carol, boy, do I remember that, right? Kelly, Irma made landfall on my mom's birthday. Weird. Is today your mom's birthday? Happy birthday, Mama P. Yeah. That Irma damage was how I got my cheap rental. I'm still in. Ay vey. I can't believe it's been 7 years. That was the most exhausting hurricane of my life. I think I worked 72 hours straight. Laura, that's not fun. All right, we've got to go do a Today Show hit. Let's do that together. Was out of power for 2 weeks, Anne Marie says. Good gravy. That's awful.
This will be a 5-day mission that includes experiments and a historic commercial spacewalk. We're going to send this walk out on Sunday. You can see that we are looking at some slowdowns eastbound I-4 from 27 to the Beach Line, 6 minutes, and then also.
All right, good morning to you, sir. Taking a live look over from Rusty's at the Port on our Tower Cam network. Another little batch of heavy rain coming on in. We take a look at our first warning live Doppler radar. There's rains here in Flagler County and more rains over in Brevard today. Going with a 70% coverage of showers and thunder showers. High temperatures in the upper 80s. We're going to stay pretty stormy the next couple of days, but rain chances back to average by the weekend. All right, so we have one more hit, and then after that, we can chat long range in the tropics. Ugh. Ruth is asking, when are we getting back to normal and drying out? We're getting back to a normal pattern by this weekend. All right. One time I would love to see Eric dance a jig while waiting for the weather hit. I don't like dancing. Zero chance of that happening. Oh, man. I was the last flight out of Orlando before Irma happened to be a few days I toured. Oh, wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. Wow. That was my youngest daughter's first hurricane she ever went through. No power for 2 weeks, lots of card games. The thing I remember the most about Irma here at Wesh was how, the weather department, we work, I'm not going to say we work longer than the other people because that's not true. But as people are starting to leave, we were still doing our stuff. And I remember seeing all of the like support folks starting to go home, the sales folks that help out, that sort of thing. And I remember seeing a good amount of them brown faced coming back because they didn't have power at home. And they were, maybe they were bringing their kids to sleep in offices and sleep in cubicles just because it had air conditioning here and they could charge phones. And I just remember thinking that is the saddest thing. Like when you go after doing hurricane coverage for days, going home and then coming back because you don't have power and thinking that is a statement to the entire community and how so many people didn't have power. So many people had homes impacted and needed somewhere else to go. And I just remember thinking like, it was almost like an instantaneous moment of like, oh, there are people impacted. Like you're in this like silo of just covering it and you're starting to see the people coming back to work and you're like, oh, it's just like during Nicole, during Ian with the flooding and you're starting to hear these reports of people, I'm scared, I'm on my bed, the water's coming in and you're like, oh God, like these things are really impacting people. And that's kind of one of those, when you're tracking it in the weather world, it's just very meteorological, very scientific. When you make that connection and realize that there are real people being impacted, it crosses that line a little bit. Roger, thank you. All right, let's see. There's that. I got to find another tower cam to use. We'll use Orlando International Airport. That's fine. All right, one more field trip and then we can look at models. Shauna says we had no power for 11 days, camping out in our covered porch to sleep. MREs. Oh man, that's. All right, one more hit. Sorry, people.
Tuesday morning on September 10th. Jason yeah, let's get to the meteorologist Eric first. For us and Eric, morning rain.
Yeah.
We still saw on the radio.
Yep. Yep.
Both of it's coming in the afternoon.
It just depends, right? Like on where you are. If you're along the shoreline, now is your chance. If you live inland, give it a couple of hours and it'll all move in. But for now, at least, Orlando International Airport looking good. Couple of planes out there on the ramp. Look at you coming in on a Boeing 737. There's a plane full of folks ready to have some fun at the theme parks before the storms arrive today. Lunchtime, couple of showers, 20% coverage, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's our window for the big firing thunderstorms. At this point, there are, okay, I count 5 lightning strikes in this cluster way off the shoreline. But for the impacting storms, it's just downpours. No flashes of lightning, at least over top of us. But Flagler, northern Volusia, some rainfall. Fading rains here in Brevard. And again, it's because the sun angle is getting higher. We're burning off this debris moisture, if you will, resetting the atmosphere and then firing up those afternoon thunderstorms. So for today, it's a 70% coverage of widespread PM rains. Highs for most of us in the upper 80s, some of us in the lower 90s. Let's talk more about your Tuesday forecast and discuss Tropical Storm Francine getting stronger in the Gulf of Mexico in just a couple of minutes. Okay.
This is I-4. You are seeing those lanes right around the champion stage.
Playing catch up now. Let's see here. One of our generators for assisted living. Oh, geez, that's awful. When Wilma hit South Florida, didn't have power and gas stations didn't have generators. Well, but the world changed after that. Everybody, all of the gas stations in those areas were required to have and get generators. That the world changed. Yeah. Let's see here. Our landlord moved us to one of his vacant homes that had electric after we sat here for a week and a half with no electricity. Wow. Man, that's something. All these hits are stealing you from us. It's not fair that you have a job to do. I'm tired. Oh man. All right. I remember about 2 a.m. when the eye wall collapsed near the house in Mount Dora, and while not a true eye wall, all of the energy dispersed with almost equally powerful. Yeah, it's true. I remember watching that, Matt. I remember watching that exact thing happen. Absolutely. All right. Wow, Laura, that does not sound fun. All right, let's do this. Let's look at the long range tropical stuff. And while we're looking at this, let me add that Jeremy Nelson and I are doing a Tracking the Tropics broadcast at 10 a.m. So if you're still looking for information, join us then. All right, let's just go. There's Francine making landfall. A little something trying to pop up kind of off the east coast there. Interesting. Just kind of firing up where. Let me go to the basin, the broader view, just to see where this tries to go, right? Basin. Okay. And then, oh, interesting that it's like hanging out near the Northeast United States. And then by like the 26th or so, not much, but some couple little areas of moisture to watch, right? Let's look at the GFS ensembles, multi-member parameter. And I would just add that the ensembles are a way for me to look at like 30 different versions of the American GFS model, all right? So let's just roll through time. There's Francine, all tightly in agreement. Some of the systems trying to develop something through Nova Scotia. Look at some development there around the Mid-Atlantic. Interesting that they're showing some landfalls on the Mid-Atlantic, others off the shoreline. I'm just looking. Couple opportunities around the 23rd. Okay. All right. Starting to watch some activity there around the Gulf and the Caribbean, though, around the 26th. So that's something to watch. All right. Over to the operational Euro. Let me turn this around. We'll switch over to pressure, normalized anomaly. There's Francine, bottom left corner. It's trying to sneak something up just off the southeast coast around the 17th. Something big out in the open Atlantic. Oh, a little Fujiwara. Look at that. Boom, Fujiwara. Okay. All right. European AI. Let's take a look at that. I'm reviewing. If I see something worth mentioning, I'll point it out. Definitely persistent on low pressure around the 17th, 18th off the southeast coast. And then something at the very end there in the Caribbean. You see that? Right there? The European AI trying to develop something around Cuba. Interesting. Okay. European ensemble time. Let's re-rack. Multi-member pressure. Francine. Some stuff off the southeast coast. Interesting. It's interesting to me that there's a lot of ensemble members trying to do something off the southeast coast, kind of the middle to end of this month. So, okay, interesting. Definitely will be interesting to see what Jeremy has to say about those pieces of energy there. Yeah. Yeah, the day after tomorrow, Mike. What a movie that is. Good times. All right, my friends. Questions, comments, concerns about our tropics, about our local forecast, about anything at all? Anything at all? We love you, Debbie. We love you. All right. Any questions? Otherwise, I will see you at 10 a.m. for Tracking the Tropics. That sound good? All right. Going once, going twice. Sold. Be the sunshine in someone else's day. Thank you for hanging out for Coffee Talk. 10 a.m. tracking the tropics. See you there. Sound good? All right. Bye, y'all.